everyone. I'm Donna Bush here with your CIG television news brief on this Wednesday. Let's start with Wednesday's press briefing held by the Ministry of Border Control and Labor.
Our aim was to obtain members' agreement on what we call an upper and a lower limit boundary. Now, the reason we were doing this is because we wanted to make sure that the economy is not severely affected. Because with minimum wage, persons may think that $15 is okay to the person receiving the money, but it may not be okay for the persons paying the money.
The Minimum Wage Advisory Committee did hear from the Department of Labor and Pensions, who has the oversight for employer-employee relationships. They also heard from Department of Work, and that's on the work permit side of things. So in both of those, there are areas where individuals can be held accountable for satisfying their contractual agreements. Where we have a bit of difficulty is that household employers and small employers are not held by the same standard in relation to medium and larger employers in terms of their paperwork trails and other things like that. So those are some of the things that I said we need to then consider outside of the scope of just a minimum wage report and look at some other ways that we can give teeth to the Labor Act and also from the work permit side of things.
The purpose of the briefing with members of the press was to discuss the main recommendations and new findings of the 2023 Minimum Wage Advisory Committee's final report. Now, panelists also gave the media and the public insight into findings and the economic implications of the minimum wage from the economics and statistics perspective. Information on the public consultation conducted, as well as highlights from information gathered, was also shared. Now, if you missed this important press briefing on the minimum wage recommendations, we encourage you to watch it in its entirety on the Cayman Islands government's YouTube channel. A powerful display of unity as students of Cayman Academy were joined by staff, parents, and community supporters last week during their first march against vaping and substance abuse. Now, the aim of the month-long National Drug Council 14th annual campaign, NY2Y, is to raise awareness about the dangers of vaping among our youth and advocate for healthier lifestyles. Now, the campaign kicked off with the inaugural Anti-Drug March. Shanna Broomfield, the school's Y2Y adult leader and educator, had this to say.
We just want the community to know, we want the youth to know that, listen, we want them to be aware that there's some myth surrounding the usage of vaping and the usage of alcohol and other drugs. So we're just out bringing awareness to the use of vaping. We want them to know that breathe air, stop vaping.
The National Drug Council, in a press release, says its leaders recognize the need to provide our young people with the facts to help them navigate the complexities of substance abuse, in this case, vaping.
When cigarettes were first introduced, it took scientists and doctors almost 100 years before they started to see the consequences of people smoking cigarettes, right? Almost 100 years it took them. Very long time. And then something very interesting happened in the 1970s in the United States. Because of all this research, and because we started to see people who were smoking cigarettes getting things like cancers, emphysema, and all that sort of stuff, there was an outright ban on cigarette advertising. Right? And then other countries started to follow. Fast forward to 2007. In 2007, the first electronic cigarette and vape hit the shelves in the United States. Fast forward to 2019. In 2019, teens your age and a little bit older were vaping at an epidemic proportion, meaning so many teens were doing it that the government started to pull some of the stuff off the shelf because they said, you know what? We don't want another public health crisis like we saw with tobacco.
Now, the 45-minute march started at Cayman Academy on Walker's Road, making its way to Memorial Drive, then Boilers Road, ending at the King's Seventh-day Adventist Church, where the program was held with the entire school population and parents participating. The campaign encourages secondary students to engage in various virtual activities, including art and rap competitions, which are designed to stimulate creativity and reinforce the importance of substance abuse education.
The Y2Y Drug March was a very empowering movement. I really liked that the drums were leading us. The loud music and how it echoed throughout the buildings really led people to come and watch and be aware of what we were doing.
If you'd like to find out more about programs at the National Drug Council, they can be contacted by email, which is info@ndc.ky. Finally, today we have another excerpt for you from last week's Women's Healthcare Conference put on by the Health Services Authority. Dr. Peter Sipos of the Health Services Authority was the second presenter at the conference. He talked about non-invasive alternatives for the management of abnormal uterine bleeding, in this case, one treatment of uterine fibroids.
The first effective treatment was using the resectoscope hysteroscopically to resect a fibroid, so that tumor that you see is a fibroid, and the resectoscope, which we have seen before, is taking chips of it. This is a bipolar resectoscope, a small one that is for office use. Essentially, what it does, it allows cutting little pieces of the fibroid out.
Well, we invite you to join us on Newsbrief Thursday for more information from presenters at the annual Women's Healthcare Conference held here in the Cayman Islands just last week. Let's have a look now at our local forecasts for this Wednesday. Across the Cayman Islands, we can expect light to moderate southeasterly winds and seas over the next few days as a weak ridge of high pressure lingers across our area. For you boaters, expect great sea conditions, which will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Our weather outlook through to Friday evening calls for similar weather conditions as we're now experiencing. Remember, you can check out the Cayman Islands National Weather Service's website as well as their Facebook page for a look at our local weather conditions. As always, I'm Donna Bush, thanking you for joining us this evening. If you're watching us on YouTube, we ask you to, of course, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for all of your key government information shared right here. Have a great night, everyone.
I'm Jody Ann Powery. I'm the Police Media Officer with the RCIPS, and I'm here to give you some crime prevention tips on how to best protect your property. The first thing that we want to discuss is our points of entries. Let's start with the front door, and then we'll move on to the windows and the back doors or sliding glass doors. The first thing to consider is the front door. This particular front door has 2 deadbolt locks. One of these deadbolt locks are properly carpentered and the other is not. When your door is properly locked, you'll hear a click at the end and the deadbolts are not able to move. If it is slightly opened, then you can push the deadbolt back without having any restrictions. I'll now proceed to show you what your lock should look like when it is properly locked. When it comes to your windows, you want to make sure that your window is locked all the way down, because even though the lock is on, if it's not all the way down, it can still be pried. The proper way to lock the window is to make sure that the window goes all the way down to the seal and then you pull across the lock. When you have a sliding glass door at home, you want to make sure that you have secondary locking devices in addition to the lock that comes with the door. One of those can be a simple piece of wood that's jamming the doorway. We want to encourage you to ensure that you don't make things easy for burglars who are looking for opportunities to break into property by leaving your property out in plain view. Some of these items are your car keys, your electronics, and your handbags. Make sure that you put these properties away when you're leaving the house or when you're going to bed. When you're going camping or if you're taking your family on a trip, you want to ensure that your property has some sign of life. This can be done by leaving a light on or putting timers on your lights. And we want to ensure that our family homes are safe. In order to do so, we encourage that people take the proper precautions by starting up neighborhood watches or encouraging family members or persons they trust to check on their properties while they're away.